Hello everyone, my name is Dee and welcome to Books and Quirks. I decided today I would do a Top 5 Wednesday. I haven't done one of these in, I think, a couple of months, and I thought it was time that I do one again. I really like the topic this week. It's your favorite underrated books. And yeah, so I'll just get started. I should say that Top 5 Wednesday is now hosted by Sam of Thoughts on Tomes, originally hosted by Lainey from Ginger Reads Lainey. I will put all of the information down below, as well as the Goodreads group in case you want to join in. So now let me get started into my top 5 favorite underrated books. So I tried to pick something from different genres just to have a good group of books to share. 3 are adult series and 2 are YA series or YA books. So the first one is Soulless by Gail Carriger. Now, I've spoke about Gail Carriger before, and she is the author of the YA series, which is the Finishing School series, which I just finished, but that is actually a spin-off of her adult series called Soulless. Soulless is a adult steampunk Victorian London novel, but it's also paranormal. It has all of the aspects that I absolutely love. It follows a 27-year-old, I think she's 27, a 27-year-old main character. Her name is Alexia, and Alexia is a badass female character. She is what's considered soulless. She's the only soulless that she knows of that exists. And this is a world, I should say, where werewolves exist and vampires exist. And she has, her soulless ability is to sort of cancel out supernatural powers. You know, basically, she can negate the powers of a werewolf or, take away their werewolf shape-shifting ability or take away a vampire's. She can basically negate their powers, meaning that if she touches a vampire, they become human for as long as she's touching them. And the same with a werewolf. So she has this ability, and she also kicks ass because a lot of people are after her because of this. I absolutely adore this series. It is one of my favorite series of all time that I've read in the past few years at least. And it's just so wonderful. I love Alexia. I love her sarcasm and her wit, and all of the characters in the book are just, fantastic. It's also a comedy of manners. I just think Gail Carriger's, I never know whether to call her Gail Carriger or Gail Carriger. I just think her writing is phenomenal. And the Finishing School series I did like, but it's nothing compared, in my opinion, to the Soulless series. Number 2 is an adult romantic comedy, and I've actually mentioned it before, I think a while back on my channel, and that is From Notting Hill with Love Actually. If you've ever seen 80s or 90s romantic comedies, you know that Notting Hill is a romantic comedy with Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts. Love Actually is a romantic comedy with a bunch of famous actors. And Love Actually, I think, actually came out in the early 2000s. But this is a book that pays homage to all of the great romantic comedies out there, and it is a romantic comedy in and of itself. I absolutely adore this. It is a love story. It's, an adult love story. But it's, in my opinion, is just so much more than that. It's just a feel-good story. And, every once in a while, you need that. And this is actually a series. I mean, it's not a continuation of the same characters, but she wrote what she calls the Notting Hill series, and it's 5 books, all set on different characters, and it's the same kind of, paying homage to the romantic comedies of the 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s. It's just a wonderful book, and I can't wait to reread it soon because I feel like I I need that in my life once again. The third most underrated book is actually a YA book, and I haven't heard many people talk about it, which is why I put it on my list, and that is Unwind by Neil Shusterman. This was a very odd book, but I enjoyed it so much. Um, Basically, this book centers around reproductive rights, believe it or not. Basically, this is a world where the pro-life and pro-choice were at a war at some point, and they were killing off each other, and basically the government came together to have sort of a compromise. And the compromise is, this is explained on the first page of the book, so not spoilery at all. And the compromise basically is that abortion is illegal, so you have to have your baby, but then between the ages of 13 and 18, you can have your child unwound. This is sort of a retroactive abortion. Basically, if you have your child unwound, the child is taken away to a government facility, and they are essentially killed, basically. But every part of their body is put into the donor system. So they're considered that they're not actually dead because their organs are still alive and being used to transplant into people that need transplants. I know that sounds really weird, but that's basically the premise, and it follows three main characters: Connor, who is 17, Riza, I think is her name, is 15 or 16, and Lev is 13. And these are three completely different characters who don't know one another, but they are each basically running for their lives. Connor's parents have signed the unwinding papers. Riza is part of the state system, and in order to keep the population of the state's children down and to open up a bed for other needy children, there's sort of a lottery system, I guess, and she's chosen to be unwound. And Lev comes from a very Christian family, and he is basically giving up his life as the 10th child. It's called a tithe. It's really action-packed. I loved it so much. I just thought it was a fun dystopian world, and one that I haven't read about before. And it is a series. I didn't complete the series. I felt like it's a 4-book series, I believe. I only read the first 2. I still want to read the last 2. But I just enjoyed Unwind so much, and I think it's really underrated. Number 4 is another YA book, and it's a standalone, and it's called Before the Fall, and it's by Lauren Oliver. It's her debut novel, and if you didn't like the Delirium series, I didn't like the Delirium series, I wouldn't hold that against her, because this is a really different book. It's about a young girl who's 17. She's really, popular. She's in her senior year of high school, and she becomes a victim of this tragic accident and basically dies. And then she wakes up the next day and continues to relive the same day over and over again. She's aware of it. It's kind of like Groundhog Day. Have you guys ever seen Groundhog Day? It was a movie from the 80s starring Bill Murray. It's kind of like that, and reliving the same day over and over again, and learning, re-examining your choices, and sort of coming to the conclusion of what you could possibly change about that day. I don't know if I'm making sense. I just enjoyed this book so much. I've read it twice. It's just one of my all-time favorite novels. And that's, surprising, considering that I really haven't liked a lot of her other works, but this book I thought was fabulous. And finally, number 5 is another adult series, and that is the Shifter series. This is a paranormal series that follows Faith. Faith is, in one respect, a normal young girl. She's about 22 or 21 in the novel, I think. And in the first novel, it's 5-book series. In her other life, she is part of her family's pride. She's basically a shapeshifter. She is part of a werecat family, and in this world, she is very protected. I should mention that in this world, women don't have a lot of rights because they're considered very precious and something to be protected, and they don't have a lot of control over marriage and reproduction, because in this world, in the werecat world, females are very unusual, meaning that most people, to have a female baby is not very common. And she is one of the last 7 females in her pride. So everyone looks to her to eventually reproduce and hopefully produce at least 1 or more females. She's also the daughter of the Alpha, which makes her even more precious. So she sort of has to balance this life, and different threats and events ensue, and it throws her entire world off. I really loved this series. If you love paranormal, if you love Shifter, this series is for you. But be warned that the women really don't have a lot of control. But if you keep reading on in the series, you'll see some really kick-ass moments. That's really all I can say. I absolutely loved it. I would really, if any of these seem interesting, even remotely interesting to you, please look them up on Goodreads so that you can decide if it's something that you would like to read. I think these 5 books are really underrated. They're not talked about that much, and I personally enjoyed every single one of them. So that is all I have for this Top 5 Wednesday. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you all next time. Bye.